Hello, good evening, everybody, and good afternoon. How are we doing? There's these weeks that you really want to wake up and look for answers in the most wildest places possible. This week was one of those places, those weeks. During this week, we encountered in Jerusalem area an immense fire that killed. I can't find any other words for that. Tens of thousands of dunams of land, hundreds of acres of forest surrounding Jerusalem. Devastating effect on the visual of this country. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about how it feels like when your dream is being burnt to the ground. What happened and how we're going to deal with it. And of course, I don't want it to be too morbid. It's the end of the week, or we're getting towards the end of the week, and we'll talk a little bit about some good news regarding the Sinai connection. But I do want to start talking about what happened this week. So let's talk about this week. Let's go. Hi. All right. It's me. I'm Ron Sinai, and for those who don't know me, I've been involved in the Israeli tourism industry for the last 3 decades. This year, we founded the Sinai Connection, which enables people from around the world to invest in Israel, whether in real estate, high tech, charity, and more. Today, we're going to talk about the week that passed around us, the great fires around the forests of Jerusalem, some miracles that happened this week, and some new news that happening within the Sinai Connection this week. So let's go. It's Thursdays, and usually on Thursdays we expose to you business partners and possibilities. This week I felt that I really want to talk more than anything else about my biggest love, and that's Israel and nature. It's all about that because for the last 70 and more years from the establishment of this country, and I'd say a little over 100 and some years since Zionism started, this country have moved from being a desolate desert place to actual blooming area. And when we're talking about blooming area, it did not happen because this country is all green and there are forests all over. It all happened because the JNF bought land and planted trees and forests. And Israel, for years, until today, is holding world records in the amount of trees that we plant in this country every year. And when I say that this is what it is, we all know, those of you that have been here know how much we love our forest and our country and how much we put effort into making it look green. And I always say making it look green because if we will take out these main and immense investments in planting trees here and making this place bloom and green, it would have been a desert. And the greatest way to see it is when you're looking at the aerial maps of this region and you're finding that the green line, this mythical green line, which was the border between Israel and Jordan between 1948 and 1967, is actually the border of where the green stops. When you're looking at Lebanon, you're finding the borders between Israel and Lebanon is where the green stops. That's another country. It's actually very, very clear to see how much effort we put into planting trees. I think it all has to do with 2,000 years ago when Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was saying that if you are about to plant a tree and you have an actual sapling of a tree in your hand and you're about to plant it in the ground and people coming over and yelling at you, listen, the Messiah arrived, let's welcome him. You're not allowed to do it. You first of all plant the tree, then you're going to welcome the Messiah. This is the most redeeming thing you can do in this country is actually to plant a tree in this country. And I think that a lot of you have done this with me. We went in and planted trees around the country. So by understanding that is that when we are coming in here and actually trying to uh, express the amount of sorrow that we felt as these things were happening, I do want to share with you a little bit of these pictures that we found here in this week that were very, very troubling. You know, it started with the understanding that this green around us is actual on fire. My eyes, this was one of the things that brought me to an understanding that these people that were living at the front line, at the fire line, the cost that was on them, that I'm talking to them today and understanding what emotional tragedy it is. How do you deal with your kids that have seen you and your family rushing away from home, leaving everything behind, not knowing if they're going to come back and there'll be something there for them to live in. And fortunately, damages were reduced. A lot of people lost their businesses and their lives and their life investments were here, but no lives were taken in this thing. The authorities did what they did in a good way and managed to actually prevent a much greater disaster in this thing. And we have to understand that Israel, not like the states, we're not used to fires. We don't know how to deal with it. We don't have any education as to how to deal with fires. This is the land of milk and honey, not the lands of trees and forests. So everything here is built out of concrete. The houses are built out of stone. Those who've been to Jerusalem know that it's all built out of the Jerusalem stone. There is no wood in the construction of a house. So the fires will be, electric fires. Might be once in a while you have something like that, but it's nothing that we can hear, sirens of fire departments. In Israel, most fire departments work throughout the year will be to rescue people out of elevator shafts, getting stuck in these situations, but not a lot of fire issues. And then comes the forest. And in a weird way, almost every year or every other year, we have a major fire that happens around here. And that raises another question. We don't really know who stands behind it. Is it the forces of nature and the climate changes and the heating around the weather in the world, or as we already found out to know, especially in our region, arsons, whether it is a terrorist uh, related arsons or maybe how would I call it, uh, neglecting or not paying attention. We don't really know. There are preliminary findings talk about the fact that it was an arson, and if I will try and see if I can show one of the things that actual act of arson, whether it is terrorism or not, that's another question. Of course, immediately the call is yes, it is. We do know what's happening in Gaza. We do know that the terrorists will burn Israel down because they see in it as a very powerful vector over the Israeli um, state of mind. We love our nature. It's part of loving this country. And the fact that they are burning it down is because they don't want it to be there. I can tell you that this week was filled with miracles, with amazing miracles. One of the most amazing miracles that I've heard this week had to do with actual understanding that in the middle of this forest, literally in the middle of this forest, lies one of the larger psychiatric hospital of Israel and of Jerusalem area, with a little grateful we are into this literal miracle that happened around us. So I needed to share with you this. It was really sitting on my heart, this thing. And although this very troubling week, I do want to tell you that we at the Sinai Connection continue to grow. And this week we were heading towards new connections and new uh, partners that joined us. And if you got the newsletter, and if you didn't, just write down in the comments below that you didn't get it, and I will make sure that you'll be part of the mailing list of the newsletter. In our latest newsletter, we already added one of our new partners. It's called the Promised Land, Promises of Glory. It's a handmade wall quilt from Israel. I find it to be an amazing project that is done by a couple that decided to do this during this pandemic, and I love to expose them to you. And if you feel like it, you can always find it in our website. And if you want to see how it looks like, I can actually, I think I can show you this one. And of course, we are now heading to another thing that I wanted to talk about, but it's not yet there. There's a new strategical connection with another platform that's going to enhance our abilities and will be great for our for you, my friends, in connecting to Israel. It's a much better thing. I hope that it will be done soon, and I'll be able to announce it, and we'll announce it hopefully very, very soon. And with this very, very positive notion, I want to conclude by inviting you all to visit our website, a place that will give you the ability to stay in touch with the country throughout the year, even if you can't come here and you can't physically arrive. We all know those pandemic issues. I would love to connect with you and reveal to you all this blessed country has to give. So see you again next week. Have a great weekend. Let's stay connected. Good night.